Hi, I'm Joe Alves, production designer of Escape from New York. Before that, I had done Jaws 2, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. On Jaws, Stephen asked me to direct a couple action sequences. Jaws 2, I directed 100 Days of Second Unit. So my interest started to be more in finding projects to direct. I had a project called Out in Front. It was about Formula One racing, something that I was very interested in because I used to race Formula cars, smaller ones, of course. I started scouting Europe, went to Munich, Germany, Monte Carlo, through France, England, and Holland. When I got back for the States, I found out that the company was being sold and canceled all projects. A very bad week. Except next week my father died, and it was all very depressing. After some time, my agent, Phil Gerst, called me and said, I think you should go back and design. I have two young filmmakers with me that were very interested in having you design the movie because they had made small movies, Halloween and The Fog, $100 million, $100,000, $300,000 budgets. So now they were looking at a budget of around 5 or 6 million and union. So it was all very new to them, and they felt that I could help, having done bigger pictures. I met John and Deborah. John is sort of a laid-back guy. Deborah was very interested in getting into big productions and learning about the unions. So my approach was probably a little more aggressive than John was used to. I like to plan things. I was big into planning a movie, scouting, contacting film commission and etc. Pre-production is big with me. So we went to New York. We stood on top of the World Trade Centers, which unfortunately aren't there anymore due to the 9/11. And we looked out at New York and we said that this is too much, this is too big, we just can't handle it this way. So let's look at a different approach. We had certain requirements. We needed a bridge that went nowhere, basically, that no one, a substantial bridge that we could control and build a wall. So we found that in St. Louis. And also while we were in St. Louis, we also discovered a train station that nobody was using. And that had a lot of character. Also the downtown area was being rebuilt, so we could just really trash it and use it any way we wanted. So that was really good. The only scene we actually shot in New York was the Statue of Liberty. Now I had built the base, the government established base in LA, but we had a guardhouse, a guard center that you come through. And it was it had a window and it was a black little building, and we put it on a truck. We drove it to New York. We took the last ferry out to Liberty Island. We set it up. Tommy Atkins walked down the Statue of Liberty, through the building. We could see him go through the window. And then as Dean Cundy, who was just a brilliant cameraman on this, was dialing along, we hit a section of just black. He shut the camera off, made sure, figured the speed. We took the whole thing back to LA, set it up. He continued on. Tommy came out of the building, and so we went with one sort of shot, continuous shot from New York, and now we're in LA. It was very clever, and we didn't have CGI at that time. They do that a lot now, but they do it with CGI. So it worked quite well. The movie, John was really a great guy to work with. In other words, because it was a tight budget and we were trying to make it look like a big movie, we didn't waste any money on sets that we didn't use. In other words, I could build a half a set and that would be fine for John. He would shoot half a set. Another director that I worked with some years before that was that way was Alfred Hitchcock. He knew exactly what he wanted, and we built only what we needed. The production was probably one of the most fun productions. I could lay out a shot, and John would say, oh, we're shooting Joe's shot, like the one with the airplane you'll see later. And there was no ego. It was a very, very close relationship. An interesting thing came in post-production. Deborah and I were looking to do visual effects, And I took her to the people that I knew, like John Dykstra, who did the effects for Star Wars. And Deborah said, you know, they're just too expensive. I had met this young man at a party a few weeks before, and he worked for Roger Corman, which is a small, low-budget kind of film establishment. And I was telling him about the effects. He says, oh, we could do it, we could do it. So we went there, and they ended up doing a really good job. Now, that guy was Jim Cameron. And actually, Jim worked for us, and you'll see the various visual effects, no CGI, that he designed. And then later, he went on to do, obviously, some very, very big movies, you know, like Titanic and Avatar and what have you. So I must say that was sort of a little thing that we had Jim Cameron working for us. It was overall probably one of the sort of most fun movies I worked on. We tried to make a somewhat small movie look big, and we got great reviews from New York critics, and we were compared with pictures that were much bigger than ours. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it, and sorry I can't be there. Bye.